What's up, bosses? Welcome to About Her Business, the podcast where we leave all the gossip at the door and get straight down to business. I'm your host, John Tay, and today we have the host of Moon Radio, Miss Coraley Letcher. Now, Miss Letcher has built a media platform that blends storytelling, culture, and modern conversations around identity, reinvention, and creativity. And she's taking the mic today on what she means business. So, ladies, grab your cups and your notepads, and let's get down to it. The meeting is now session. Welcome, Coraley.
Hi, Jante. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. You ready to get into it?
I am.
Let's go. So, you spent years in construction and trades management. What did that environment teach you about leadership systems and resilience that you still carry into your business today?
I mean, construction is a very fast paced, very traditional business, very transaction based, but definitely very quick. And being a woman, especially in construction, because it's very male dominated, I think two things that I took away the most, there are a lot of lessons there, but the two that stand out the most to me were listening to my intuition and my instinct, not second guessing myself, and learning to use my voice. I think there's a lot of instances before working in that environment where sometimes I would silence myself, as I think a lot of us do. And it definitely taught me to speak up and say what I have to say and share my expertise. Otherwise, no one's going to listen, right? No
Right.
one's going to know.
That's powerful that you were able to find your voice in such a male dominated society. Now, can you take us back to a moment that you realized it was time for you to pivot? What was the internal and external shift that made staying no longer an option for you?
The external, I would describe it as the push to do the thing. And that would be there was a lot of change going on in my life and a lot of things all at once. One of those times where people describe to you so many things going wrong, or there were people close to me passing away, becoming ill, job loss, just relationships falling apart. I was dealing with a lot and I was in such a place, such a dark place, I have no other way to describe it, like a dark night of the soul is how people say it, where I was like, I need to do something that's for me and that I believe will bring good into the world. I can't stay in these positions using my talents for someone else in these situations that I don't really believe are making a positive impact on the world. I needed something that I thought was going to bring some sort of good into the world. I guess shift aligns with that is that internal voice saying to me, all of this stuff has fallen away in the outside world, in the physical world. And that was my inner voice saying, you know what? It's time. Do something for you. It's a for me, my greater belief in what we're here to do as humans. So
Absolutely. So let's talk about reinvention for a second because it sounds very empowering to people when you say it, but it's also risky. You have to take some risk out here. So, how did you practically prepare for that transition from traditional industries into the media?
I think really it's basic. It's probably not as exciting as of an answer as it could be, but I just applied the skills that I have from running businesses for decades into my new venture. A lot of people view podcasts or they start their podcasts as a hobby, right? They're doing their job and they just start recording. Maybe they don't even have a specific niche they're trying to fill with it. They may not even have their concept laid out. They just start. And I approached building Blood Moon Radio as a business. I built my website, I front loaded my income streams. I have my strategy for how I'm going to grow where I want to end up. And that's how I approached it. I applied basic business skills to the venture.
Absolutely. And you don't see a lot of women in media. So, let's talk about when you started building your presence in the media. What was your initial business model and how has that evolved since you launched it?
The long term business model is to build a diversified group of media companies, right? I want to have a hold co. I want to have a company, which I've started working in with my business consulting, Wolf Spain Media Solutions, to help other podcasts or other creators with their businesses. And obviously, I started Blood Moon Radio, and that's one of the corporations that'll fall under the Holdco. But eventually, I want to be able to help other people start their podcasts. See, not everybody comes from a business background or knows where to start. And so, long term, The business model is the same, the vision is the same. Short term, shifts happen in business. I think adaptability is one of the most underrated but most important skills that you can have in life and in business. And so when things come up, maybe you have a shortfall of capital that you had planned. And so you can't advertise as much. You have to shift how you're getting things out, or you have to accept that it's going to take longer to get where I want to be and I need to figure out a different income stream in the meantime. So short term, timeline shifting, income shifting, which is all normal in business. And honestly, what I enjoy about it, I like to have my brain entertained. And so challenges to me in business are just opportunities to think and come up with a new way to do things and keep busy, keep my brain busy, not my
Ab-
body.
Absolutely. And I like how you said keep my brain busy, not my body, because burnout is a real thing out here. So again, you have created Blue Moon Radio and it has a very unique voice. How did you define your brand identity in a space that's already saturated with content?
Being authentic, which sounds, I don't know, maybe not as exciting. I see lots of people nowadays, and that's how you go viral, right? You follow a trend. And that was never my plan. My plan was to be authentic, to use my voice for myself and my own healing, and then to also lead the way for people who come on my show to feel like they can authentically share their voice and that they have a platform, a safe platform to do that in. And so it can be easy to run with the crowd and chase engagement that way. But my goal is to have authentic voice and presence. And I believe that's going to give me the longevity and will make me stand out in the crowd and also avoid burnout, right? Because if you're just busy watching what everybody else is doing and rushing to do what they're doing, and it's not something you truly believe in, it's just something you're doing for likes and clicks, it's hard to keep putting your energy into something hollow, right? To me, everything in life is based on reciprocity. If my audience sees my authenticity, they resonate with it, they're going to keep coming back and we're going to be good for each other versus me just outputting what I think people want to see and having my energy pour out into something hollow and not reciprocal.
Right. And that's a great point to make because you see a lot of people out here chasing trends and a lot of them have gone viral and the next thing you know they're chasing that next viral moment. But for some it does not come and being authentic is now starting to become a trend. But sure enough, your audience will identify whether or not if you're being authentic because a lot of people claim that they are, but just as soon as they go outside or around a crowd, they're being exposed. So I love that you brought that up because it helps you get past the trends. It helps you long term because you don't have to keep switching up to be somebody that you're not. So let's talk about from an operational standpoint. What systems or workflows have you put in place to keep your media venture consistent and scalable?
That kind of has to do with authenticity too, but it's authenticity to yourself. So when I started Blood Moon Radio, I knew I needed income. I would have loved to just be able to fast track everything, but I didn't have access to the capital, or I'm not being produced by a giant company that's going to put it out there and everything's just going to be hunky dory and we have all this income all of a sudden, right? I knew logically the fastest way in media to build your audience is to then have a lot of content. And my logical voice, my business brain was like, you need to produce weekly or a couple times a week. And my intuition was like, you're in a delicate spot. You need to nurture yourself. And this is important to you. I'm a person who cares about the quality of what I put out. I care about consistency. So I had to make some hard decisions, including releasing biweekly. If I'm on a biweekly release schedule, I have time to edit how I want, to promote how I want. It's decisions like that. Or on certain social media platforms like Instagram or Facebook, I committed myself to posting every second day. Now, for some algorithms, would it be better to post every day? Sure, but it's the same thing. I built in a schedule that I knew I could be consistent with. And that not only helps in the long term with the business, it helps me not to burn out. And it helps me to produce the type of work that I'm proud to see out there. I can look back at what I did over the last year and not think, oh, why did I post that? Or I just posted that because I needed to post something. I can look at the content and see the purpose and see the thought and the care. And that might not be as important to other people, but it's important to me. It gives me pride in my work and it keeps me motivated. And I think also speaks to in certain phases of business, like when you're in startup phase, unless again you have a ton of capital to dump into the thing, you're working solo, right? If you had a team that was doing your social media, sure, you could post on every platform and have different content and people would be filming. You would show up, someone would film you, you'd have a producer and you might direct how the editing goes. You might say, this is how I want the arc of this filming to go, or here's where this fits into the season. But largely, a big chunk of the work that you do solo would be gone. But when you don't have those opportunities, or that's not how your business is set up and you're doing it yourself, yeah. And I think for so long in North American society, particularly, we've I don't know, minimized the need for rest. And something that I love, and I've talked to a lot of people on my podcast as well about this, that's coming out is a more matriarchal way of approaching business. Allow times for rest. Another thing that I did with the podcast was break it into seasons. So I know I'm going to have a little 6 week. I'm not going to not be working during that time. I have to do promo shoots and I have to prepare the trailer and I'll be recording some of the episodes, obviously, for the upcoming season, but the pressure is off for a bit. You give your body and your mind and your spirit, if you believe in that, time to just breathe and come in refreshed so that you can do your best work. I think we prioritized production over quality for so long. And I'm excited to see what happens in business from this point on because I feel like there's a shift.
Absolutely. And everybody, when we get, whether if you're working a 9 to 5 or whether if you starting a business, the money is always a question of how do I start monetizing myself? So let's talk about that for a minute. How are you currently turning storytelling and content into revenue streams?
It touches back to what I talked about before. When I set up the podcast, I set it up as a business. I built a website outside of my host on Acast. So that comes with a website, but I built a different website outside of that where I do have a digital store, a merchandise store. I have affiliate links on there. I set up my income streams I have memberships. I set up affiliate streams income streams ahead of time so that everything was front loaded. And it's not to say that's a mistake at all for people to start the podcast and then add those things. But I have run businesses before where maybe you start as a general partnership or a proprietorship, and then you get to a certain level of income, you incorporate. It's a lot of work moving your assets over. And when you've already set up systems that work for you, like for example, with podcasting, once you start recording and you get your workflow going on how you're going to edit when you're putting out clips, to have to disrupt that every time you grow, just I didn't want to do that. So that was like a piece of it, but it was also the income, right? You can start making income before you are big, before you have a huge following. And as you get fans, they do, right? They're like, oh, I want to see more of what you're doing. So they'll buy a membership or they'll buy a water bottle. So I just I front loaded everything. That's my plan.
I like that. And I've actually been thinking about doing merchandise for the podcast as well. But I do have my own personal affiliate links where people could click and see, even get other media opportunities if they want to come on my podcast or if they just want to work with someone else. So I've started collaborating with other media professionals as well. And I get paid from that. So that's a great tip that you just gave our audience because a lot of people don't think that you can make money from affiliate marketing, but it's a lot of money in affiliate marketing.
And it's mostly passive income too, right? You do promo, like I'm a member of Podmatch. I make sure that I put Podmatch in all my show notes and it's in my personal link tree and the show's link tree. But the link is there. If people see what you're doing, they hear you mention it or they're just curious, right? And then you're not burning yourself out chasing a bunch of stuff. I love design work, so I love having my merch, but that is an area where if you want to be releasing different things all the time, you can end up overextending yourself. So affiliate links they are good.
Now, another thing that a lot of people, whether you're a content creator or a podcaster, growing your audience can be very tough, especially with it being so oversaturated right now. So let's talk about strategies. What has been your most effective strategy for growing your audience without compromising the integrity of your message?
I think it's being confident enough to know that the right people are going to find you and having the right audience, the audience that connects with you, find you, even if they're smaller than some other audiences, is much more valuable than having a large following of people who aren't really engaged. And so, if you can be confident in yourself, confident in your voice, confident in what you want to do and what you're putting out. And for me, part of that is the hope that what I'm doing will help people. It'll inspire them and allow. I do really think our world needs to hear more voices and make space to actually listen. And so that's a big thing for me with the podcast. And so if those people who share those values can find me, yeah, that's the goal, right? It doesn't matter if there's 50 of them versus someone else who has 50,000. I would rather have 50 people who are really invested in what I'm doing than 50,000 that really don't care. I'm just another account they follow on their large feed.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I'm starting to love about how businesses is changing because you see a lot of people now saying, hey, this person, they're getting 50,000 followers, but how many of them are actually investing into their products or they just sitting there being pretty much spam on their accounts. And so I agree with you. I would rather have 100 followers and all 100 followers actually be investing into my business and collaborating and networking and things like that rather than having 100,000 followers and over 50,000 of them don't even like anything I post. So it's literally a whole different type of mindset that's changing in business right now that I'm actually loving about it because you look at a lot of these people, like I look at some celebrity pages and sure enough, they have over 1 million followers. But they're only getting 3,000 views per post. So it's you're not connecting with your audience, or people are just following you for that one viral moment that you did, and now they're not interested anymore. So that's a great point to make. Now, again, you're building a space that hasn't always centered women. How have you navigated being a female founder in an industry that can traditionally feel male dominated?
I think compared to construction, media feels much tamer. Construction is so male dominated that I would have people not want to email me because I was like, they would ask to talk to. So when I owned the construction company with my husband, they would address emails to him, even if I said, I'm the person who handles this, or just it's a tough industry. So media to me feels a little less intense because it's not a day to day interaction. And I feel like my work is out there proving itself versus in construction, sometimes it didn't matter how good you were. People were like, they have an idea about what a woman can and can't do, right? And I think that comes from really believing in your own worthiness. A lot of us struggle with that. It took me a long time. So looking at yourself and saying, I do have these talents, I am good at this, and I'm worthy to do this thing. Self belief is, I think, again, in our society, stripped from us in various ways in the norms of how we raise our children and the messaging that we receive through media, traditional media, how it has been. And I think reclaiming that is a real act of service, not only to yourself, but to people who are going to see what you're doing, and it may inspire them to take that path themselves, to look at themselves and say, these are my gifts, and here's how I'm going to be brave. I'm going to step into them unapologetically. I think it's one of the best things, especially as women, that we can do for everyone, not just for ourselves, for society.
Absolutely. I love that, Corley. Now, again, let's talk about because you have the background in construction. How have you found that your background in construction gives you an advantage when it comes to negotiating, decision making, and leading your business?
I'm much more vocal now. I'm less of a people pleaser. I was definitely a little bit too much of a people pleaser when I was younger. And I think I'm also far more aware of how other people's actions or reactions usually have so much to do with themselves, their perceptions, their hangups, or their insecurities than they actually have to do with me, with my capabilities, or with who I am. Unfortunately, a lot of construction culture is very misogynistic. And so it doesn't matter if you're working in the office or the field. As a woman there, you can be viewed through a male lens, put on a pedestal, sexualized for just existing. And the same thing when you speak up. Speaking up as a woman still offends people who are stuck in a very misogynistic mindset, right? What you talked about earlier about coming off as aggressive, you could say the exact same thing that if a male counterpart had said it, he would be brilliant. You're being very abrasive. And yeah, it was a lesson in being more vocal and finding self assurance, not taking things personally. A thing that I've had to work on in my life is not, I'm so open. And like we discussed before we started filming, not as many people are. And I would take it personally if people didn't meet me there, if they misunderstood. And that phase of my life taught me exactly how much other people's actions just have to do with them. They have nothing to do with me.
And again, we talked even in today's episode about having authenticity. And so I want to ask you, what does that look like for Coralie on a day-to-day basis?
It's being transparent, being honest. Those things are core tenets of who I am as a person. And it's a gift to go to work now and just be able to show up as who I am and not worry about who's projecting what into it. And for the work of creating content or creating episodes, it's less about making it fit into the box of traditional business and more about a challenge is how much am I going to share? Like, how much vulnerability am I going to have? What feels comfortable? But brand wise, it simplifies things, right? I can trust my instincts, my feelings on whether something is a fit or not for my businesses and go with that, it's amazing. It's lovely to have space to just be authentic and be yourself versus fitting into the box of traditional transactional business and serving them with what they need while keeping parts of yourself back.
And I want to get some advice from my ladies out there because I know there may be a lady who's sitting here right now saying that she may want to start a construction company or a media company. So, for the woman that may want to do that, what advice would you give her right now?
Jump in. I'm not saying go in without a plan or don't think it through, but also a big part of the work is getting started. We can get so hung up planning that we don't do the work. I had a guest on Blood Moon Radio not that long ago. Her name is Alexandra Beller. She's a choreographer from New York. And she had said she doesn't think creativity is when she's thinking about the project, when she's thinking about the dance. It doesn't become creativity until it's out there and she's done it. So she's a fan of creating quickly. And I was like, I'm a planner. So I had to think about that for a bit, but I was like, it's the same, right? Before you do it, it's just theory, is what she said. And so once you do it, it's a thing. And you can learn so much as you go. And in our society, or at least for me growing up, making mistakes was framed as this terrible thing. And I wish that we had figured out sooner, or I personally had figured out sooner, or it just wasn't the culture of my family, that mistakes are how you learn. That is information. So go make the mistakes, do the things. Don't be scared. Do it. Learn from what you do wrong. Be proud of what you do right. And their business is a process of refining. So just refine as you go. And you've got this.
Absolutely. Now, this is going to be an interesting question, and I really want your opinion on this one. Where do you see female-led media business creating the most disruption or opportunities right now?
I think the disruption is the opportunity. And women stepping into roles that weren't traditionally offered to them, rising up into a different way of doing and being, unapologetically taking up space, that's creating space for other women and for people who maybe don't fit the patriarchal capitalist checkbox of what's acceptable. And that's really important work. It's challenging patriarchal and capitalist narratives and standing in our power. So Yeah, I think in doing so, we are showing people what they can do and yeah, the disruption, it is the opportunity.
And I love how you answered that one. Like a lot of people are saying right now, have the audacity to step into these rooms where it's male led, have the audacity to put yourself out there. So just have the audacity to do what it is that is internally in you and you want to see. Like I said, be the change that you want to see in the world. So wherever you see a problem at, be the solution.
Audacity is one of my favorite words. Like, really is.
Now, sadly, we've come to the end of today's episode, and we always leave with a legacy. And I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about this, Corley. When it's all said and done, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think it's probably what I would hope if someone were looking back on what I've done. The change that I would want to see, what I would want them to think about is how if we can approach life and other people and processes, whatever you want to do, learning, business, with curiosity and genuine, open curiosity. Not curiosity with an end goal, not curiosity hoping to change someone around to what you see as right, but genuine, open curiosity. The change that can create in how we interact with people and how we conduct things like businesses, a connection. Our society to me is lacking genuine connection, right? And I do believe that the way that we get back to that is genuine, open curiosity. If I'm asking you questions about your life, about how you do things, your business, and I'm genuinely interested in hearing this other way of being, that is so valuable for you, for me, and again, I think for society at large. We've largely lost the ability to listen to other people's experiences, to their life without getting defensive, without projecting. And so there's real value in taking that back. And I do believe the world can be a little bit scary to look, at least for me, when I look at everything. And I do believe that is the way, is genuine curiosity. So that is what I would want to leave behind. I would want to inspire people to be openly curious.
I love that. And before we go, we're going to make sure that we get all of Miss Corley's information. Please let us know where we can find the podcast. Let us know where we can find the products. Let us know where we can find the affiliate links. Let us know where we can find you on socials. Let us know all the details.
You can find the website for Blood Moon Radio at www.bloodmoonradio.com. If you're interested in working with me on your business, you're looking for a business consultant, you can go to the Wolfsbane Media page at that website. You can find the podcast on every platform, so wherever you like to listen. And then socials, you can check us out on Facebook, just Blood Moon Radio. Instagram, blood.moon.radio. And I am on TikTok, but I'm not a frequent poster on there. But you can find me if you want. I usually do tarot reading and stuff on there.
And I will be leaving all that information down in the description box below. Any final words before we adjourn today's meeting?
I don't think so. Thank you so much, Shantae. That was so lovely. Just a very welcoming, wonderful conversation. I'm so excited that you invited me to come on.
And with that, ladies, today's meeting is now adjourned. Thanks again to the host and founder of Moon Radio, Miss Coraley Letcher, for coming on and sharing her insights. And you be sure to subscribe to About Her Business wherever you receive your podcast so you never miss whenever we upload. Also, leave me some comments down in that comment section on which industry you think I should interview next. Until next time, keep your goals tight, those circles tighter, and those bank accounts growing.